Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into an idea that is so big it might just change how you think about, well, everything. Your job, your life, your place in the world. It's a real game changer. So let me ask you something straight up. When you think about yourself, do you see a private individual? Someone just making their own way, kind of separate from the rest of the world?
Okay, hold that thought, because the source we're looking at today makes a really provocative claim. In this century, being a truly private individual, it's just not possible anymore. Let's get into why.
So, welcome to what our source is calling the public age. The whole idea is that we're all living in one giant, tangled up system now, and trying to go it alone? It's not just hard, it's basically impossible. I mean, just think about your day. The food you ate for breakfast, the clothes you're wearing, the phone you're probably watching this on. You didn't make any of it, right? It all exists because of this massive web of human cooperation. We're educated in shared systems, we live by shared rules, and now, thanks to the internet, we even think in a shared public space. The source says this change happened so fast that most of us are still acting like we live in the 20th century, but we don't.
So how did this happen? How do we build this huge, interconnected public world? Well, according to our source, it happened because we all started speaking a few new universal languages.
And the source points to three big ones. First, there's money, which is basically the operating system for global capitalism. Then you've got medicine, our shared scientific approach to health. And think about how global that became during the pandemic. And finally, the internet, which created this single library of human knowledge. Each one of these is a system that just jumps right over national borders.
And to really hammer home how universal that first language, money, is, the source offers this really stark quote. The point is, it doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. To function in the modern world, you have to use the global economic system. It's become totally inescapable. And this also shows what happens when you try to create your own separate language. The source points to what it calls China money, an attempt to create a different set of economic rules. And it argues that when you do that, when you create a system that's just for your own benefit, you risk cutting yourself and your partners off from the rest of the world. In a world this connected, you've got to speak the same language.
Now, this shift to one big public system didn't just pop up overnight. Our source frames all of human history as this long, slow march of unification. It's a constant story of smaller ideas getting absorbed by bigger ones, all because we're chasing a better, happier life.
And you can see this pattern throughout time. It kicks off with these foundational philosophies sprouting up all over the world. Those ideas then fuel massive empires that bring huge areas under one system. Then, boom, the age of exploration connects all the continents. And by the time we hit the 20th century, the whole world is basically a battle between just two giant ideas, capitalism and socialism. You see the trend, right? Consolidation.
So the engine driving history is always this. Bigger, more complex systems just win. They absorb the smaller ones. Your world stops being just about your family and becomes about your tribe. Then your tribe is absorbed into a nation. Then the nation into an empire, and finally, the empire into a global ideology. The bigger idea always comes out on top.
I really like this analogy the source uses. It says to think of history like a tree. Each major era is like a node on a branch, a point of strength and growth. The tree grows, forms a node, and then uses that new, stronger foundation to reach even higher. Our super-connected world? We're just the newest, highest node on that ancient tree.
Okay, so here we are. We're more connected than ever. We've got these universal languages for money, health, and knowledge. But, and this is a big but, we're not totally unified yet. According to the source, we're staring down two final, massive hurdles. And here they are, the big unsolved problems. The source argues that we still haven't found a universal language for two critical things. First, politics and economics. You know, how we actually agree to share and distribute all the stuff in the world. And second, religion and ideology. Those deep core beliefs that still create so much division.
And you don't have to look very hard to see the symptoms of this divide, right? You see superpowers bending the very international rules they helped write just to get an edge. You see countries that talk about high ideals struggling when faced with real-world problems like migrant crises. You hear all this talk about a new Cold War, and of course you see actual tragic wars still being fought over these very same political and religious lines. So, where do we go from here? If we need a universal language for how to live together, what is it? Well, the source suggests something pretty cool. The answer isn't some brand new invention. It's actually a principle that, it turns out, we're already using every single day. The source brings up this ancient Korean philosophy called Hongik Ingan. It's a really simple but deep idea. It just means to broadly benefit all humankind. The goal is to live your life in a way that helps everyone. Not just you, not just your town, but humanity as a whole.
I know what you're thinking. Okay, an ancient philosophy, that's a nice thought, but what does that have to do with my commute, my bills, my actual life? It's a fair question.
Well, here's the twist. The source says you're already living this philosophy. I mean, think about the basic structure of your life. You go to work and do something that other people need or want. You create value. You get paid for creating that value. And then you use that payment to get things you need that other people created. It's a huge interconnected system of mutual benefit. That is Hongik Ingan in action.
And this all leads to the final, powerful conclusion. We don't need to build a new system from scratch. We just have to wake up and recognize the reality of the system we are already in. We are all public people. We are all contributing to and benefiting from this global human project. The only difference between a teacher, a CEO, or a scientist is just the scale of their public role. So I'll leave you with that one last thought from the source. The shift has already happened. We are all public people now. The only question left is whether we realize it.